Being able to talk Star Wars week in, week out, it's always a good feeling. Chatting with Luke, conversing with you guys, the greatest listeners in the galaxy, it's great. It's like that feeling of easy money, baby. But tonight, that feeling is going to be amplified to a feeling greater than the Force itself. Tonight, it's going to feel a little bit like greasy money, baby, because we're joined by the man behind the Lateron pilot, chef, gambler, sodium-loving legend, Greez Dritus. From Jedi Fallen Order, welcome to Daniel Roebuck. Sir, how on earth are you?
Oh, it's so good to be here. I'm starting with my Greez voice. Hey, everybody, get on the Manus. Let's go. We gotta go. Yes. I don't want to go. It's as bad as a scad steak on a Saturday night. Hello, everybody. Oddly, it sounds just like me, doesn't it? So it's not very
I can tell a little bit. Are there ever moments where you're like, oh, that's Greez coming out there? You know, in everyday life.
This is an actor's dilemma. I'm not afraid of Greez coming out now. I'm afraid of when I has Alzheimer's. And I say to my wife, honey, we got to get in the spaceship. This planet's going to explode. I don't think the Wookiees can hold them back. But that's I fear that with every character I've played. You know, like I wake up one day and I say, honey, we got to get to the set. I'm the host of the Tonight Show. You know,
Jay Leno.
And anyway, so these are actor dilemmas. No, I never actually. The only thing you do, you guys are a little younger, is at some point you're going to be saying something to your kids and you're going to go, oh, shoot, because you're going to realize that you're your father.
Yep. It's already happening. It's already happening to me. I'm like, oh, my word, I sounded just like my mum just then. I sounded just like my dad just then. That was my granddad. Sometimes it's really good. Sometimes it's just a little shake, like a little face shake from my wife. Like, what are you turning into? I was like, I'm like it. I'm okay with it. I want to be an old man in my 20s. That's fine. That's fine.
I mean, you kind of are, because you're talking about something that was invented literally 4 decades before you were even born.
Well, listen. We were talking last week about how Lucasfilm were coming out and saying, yeah, we're going to be celebrating the 20th anniversary of Attack of the Clones, and that was just my heart just sank, and I went, what?
Oh no,
what? You know, now, so yeah, when the original trilogy guys say
Attack of the Clones means 42nd anniversary. I think I'm a bit of a nerd. 42nd anniversary of Star Wars. Although it's funny, I'm not so good. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. What is the first one? New Hope. What is the first one?
Yeah.
New Hope. We just called it Star Wars. Second one. Right. What's the second one?
Empire Strikes Back.
If the first one's New Hope, the second one's Empire Strikes Back.
Yep.
Yes.
Third one,
Return of the Jedi.
So they get to be, only the first one has a different name. The other two get to be their name. And then when we get to the fourth one, it's called
The Phantom Menace.
So why is the first one called New Hope and not just Star Wars?
They had to rename it, right? Because it became a massive franchise. So I think a few people got it was better for marketing, I think, from a certain point of view. But there are purists. There are people that go, no, it's just Star Wars.
It's still Star Wars.
But for me, and for Matty Boy, we grew up obviously with the 90s and the re-release of the special editions and the prequel era. So for us, it's a given that it's, Star Wars A New Hope. We don't know anything different. That it's no, that's episode 4.
I understand.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I understand.
But Daniel, how deep does your love for, and I'm going to include pop culture in general, just because you've said a few things before we went live on air. But yeah, there we go. But for the people listening, Daniel's just got a few toys. Explain to us, Daniel, your love for pop culture, your love for Star Wars. Where does it come from?
Yeah, look, you guys, you come, you're in the Great Britain, man. You're like the greatest actors Olivier, he's Alec Guinness, of course.
Yeah.
These are actors, they began in the theater and they did Henry IV and then they did Henry V. And then they talk about my Hamlet as opposed to Gielgud's Hamlet. See, I just wanted to be on TV, and in movies. And I began in the theater because that's where you begin. I was smart enough to know if I learned how to do that, I could do anything. But I'm not, the actor's actor. I'm kind of the everyman actor. I'm the working class actor. I do this because I love it. So, what we were just talking about, how Star Wars New Hope for you is kind of like us looking back at, literally, you look at Star Wars New Hope like we look at Citizen Kane when I was your age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Meaning that it's from another time and it's this other thing. But for me, 1977, I got bad news for you guys. That movie was made for me. He was like, what do 13-year-olds like? Get Danny Roebuck. We'll give him a movie that he likes and nobody else gets why he likes it. And then everybody liked it. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, so now you want to admit you're like me.
This is my thing.
Before, you made fun of me, but now you go to Star Wars 7 times like I do. So Star Wars was made for me. And my brother John, a lot of people had great happiness when I joined the franchise. My brother John and I had kind of a quiet moment where we just regarded the idea that in 1977, we sat in that theater, the Boyd Theater, which they just tore down last week.
No.
We sat in the Boyd Theater, and I'm in that same. I'm not just in Star Wars. I'm in that storyline. Like, you know what I mean? I'm in the Skywalker.
That must be surreal. Surreal.
Ridiculous. Now, by the way, it's not the first time it's happened. It's certainly not the last. I'm Grandpa Munster now. If you could even get your head around the fact that when I was a 12-year-old boy, I was a clown in a circus, and I was a funny vampire, and I was named the Count. And now in Rob Zombie's movie, I'm a funny vampire, and I'm named the Count because that's the name
come
of the
full
character
circle
in this, right? So, it doesn't surprise me. Maybe you say, what are the chances a guy loves Star Wars and ends up in Star Wars? And the answer is 100% if you're me. I've certainly have worked toward being the guy people would call. So it is nice that they still make Star Wars product and that I got to be in it.
Yeah, they certainly make Star Wars products still. There's no shortage of that coming out. But so with everyone's, or my favourite, Lateron, Greez Dritus, how did you, what was the process in getting that gig? Did you contact them? Did they contact you based on your huge body of work?
Oh, thank you. Well, I had worked with the director before, but I had Tom Keegan as our performance director. These things have many directors, but Tom is the genius final step in the process as far as I'm concerned. But I went to an audition for a video game, and I was saying, I don't know what it is with you Templar Knights. I don't know why you act like this, but I'm trying to understand. And I auditioned, and clearly they liked what I did, And then Tom said, Dan, instead of saying Templar Knights, say Jedi. And that was the moment.
Then it hit you.
Well, and I think they're ingenious. Well, in the first place, everything's cloaked in silence, right? In the second place, I don't know. Tom knew me a little. He knew that if I knew it was Star Wars, I'd screw it up. I definitely screw it up, but that's when I knew, and I remember that kind of, deer caught in the headlights. But what's interesting is, can I talk about this kind of thing, about how I would say God is good, and there's always this thing that I get to do. I kind of have a sixth sense on these things. So now look, when you read the character, to me, he was a great character. He was just like Ernie Borgnine, because he was that guy who's he's the guy who's got the heart of gold, and he's trying to help these two. Like, it's Ernie Borgnine in many movies.
From like Marty's, Fly the Phoenix is that's the one, yeah.
Yeah, you know who the Neptune Factor, I mean, you know, the Poseidon Adventure. So I always work archetypically, but I kind of knew it was Ernie Borgnine. And when I got cast, you know, then it was like, how do you make Ernie Borgnine and Joe Pesci live in the same body? And then what was really weird is after the fact, when one of those books came out, because right initially the comment was they were thinking of John C. Reilly, but that's what they were. I never thought of John C. Reilly. Obviously, why would I? I'm an actor of his age. I don't think of him. I think of me. But the writer said that they were channeling Ernie Borgnine when they wrote it. So I walked in doing Ernie Borgnine essentially, and then ended up because I kind of leapfrogged over everybody else, because there was in some great gift to me, I completely understood who the guy was supposed to be. Archetypically.
That's when you know it's meant to be. Because I was going to say, how much of yourself did you bring to the role? But obviously with Ernie Borgnine, the inspiration, and for anyone out there who isn't aware of Ernie Borgnine, just YouTube some of his performances, and you'll get the essence.
He's an Oscar-winning actor.
He's a fabulous actor, and you'll get this kind of the energy that he exudes is obviously within Greez. And was this your first mocap performance then?
No, we had done for Tom Keegan. I did Dead Rising 3. I played Gary. People watched
a few years before.
Yeah, and Gary, by the way, you know, he doesn't look like me, but he's a big guy. I'm a tall guy, a little round sometimes. So my body could embody Gary. Embodying, when we did the very first rehearsals, or Thursday, Friday, I worried about it all weekend. And I kept thinking Pesci's the key that unlocks the lock. Pesci. So I finally got this epiphany that Pesci isn't a little guy living in a big world. He's the biggest guy in every room. Yeah. That's how he approaches it. So I was kind of trying to make myself small. And then the epiphany was, and I called Tom and I said, I think I have this. He goes, oh my gosh, I'm thinking the exact same thing. Pesci doesn't act like a small person. He acts like a big person. He acts like a person much bigger than he really is. So that was kind of boom. Then we had it. We really had it. Joe Pesci, Ernie Borgnine's heart, Joe Pesci's kind of stature and maybe personality a little. Really, but you got to give credit to the writers, the creators of the game, and to Tom Keegan, who, and I would also say to Cameron and Deborah, all the actors we worked with on the show were superb actors.
That's amazing. And I love that you've already mentioned family in this, Daniel, but how did other friends and family react to you being part of Star Wars? Because when you think about how big Star Wars is in the US, in the UK, and a lot of the English speaking world, Star Wars just is number one. And it's a big deal. Like, if I told my brother that, I think he'd die. He'd just malfunction. It would error 404 does not compute. Like, how did people react to that?
Well, you know, so my brother's my brother. My wife, Tammy, you know, in her office, she's my producer and editor on the things we do. Her office has the Star Wars posters in it. And she loves, you know, she's younger than me, and she got them, I guess, in the re-releases. But she loves Star Wars. And so it's kind of crazy to have the, you know, the people closest to you love what you're doing. In a previous marriage, I don't think that wife would have really cared about it one way or another. And in fact, you know, my former wife, here's just a fun a fun factoid. She's my kids tell me she's dating a new guy, and that's all right. We're all grown ups. And he's a pilot, and I know my wife well enough to know that she thinks I'm just an actor, and I knew she'd think, but he's a pilot. So I go. We're visiting my daughter at work, and we're all very friendly. And I say, "Hey, you got a new boyfriend?" And she goes, "Uh-huh." I go, "What's he do?" She goes, "He's a pilot," just like I knew she would. And I said, "Oh yeah, really? What does he fly?" And she goes, "He flies airplanes."
No.
I said, "Oh, that's interesting because your former husband flies a spaceship in Star Wars."
No.
The Mantis. Yes. How's that for one?
Yeah, you can date whoever you want to date, but the new wife has the guy in Star Wars, and
You can keep your 747. I'll take the Stinger XL Mantis. It's a great ship, not built for close combat. Great pilot, of course.
Dude, you're floating. How funny.
Dude, honestly, I've said on air many times, the listeners will know that Fallen Order, the story of the game, and the game itself is great, but the story, I really connected with the family. So that would be the character of Greez, Seer, Cal, Merrin, and everybody, and even the villains in the game. I really connected with that. But I really connected with the character of Greez because he is that almost like archetypal Star Wars character. He's not the bad guy, but he's the kind of he's rough around the edges, but he's, underneath that, he's got a heart of gold, really. And there's a few moments where that kind of plays out. I've got a few moments of Greez, which I really enjoy, but obviously I haven't been on set and acting out those scenes. Did you have a favourite sequence that's in the game, or one that maybe isn't, that you can remember as that's the one?
Well, I think the scene, I think the last scene, like when we were shooting that, I thought, wow, not only is this a great last scene, but this is a great Star Wars last scene. It's setting us up for something more. So I like that. But, the scene where I kind of confessed to Cal about my ineptitude and I'm trying to get him and her to not be mad at each other, he and Cal and Seer. I think it was first very well written. And then they did a rewrite pass on it, and we made it simpler and shorter, smaller. That was actually the scene that I was auditioning with. That was one of the few scenes I auditioned with. I like that. And I like the authenticity. And in fact, I think I actually put that scene on my acting reel. Because even though I think it's a really solid performance, his and mine. But you got to have, to give a good performance, you have to have another actor who's working, who's bringing it. You can't, you can't, act against a wall and have nothing come back. So for performance to really have an impact, it requires a listener and a speaker.
That's a great answer.
I think that was my favourite. Yeah, the kind of when he apologises to Cal. I think that's a great scene.
And I want to echo as well the point Matty Boy made about Fallen Order. Like, this game is adored, and for a lot of people, I think the Star Wars video game space felt a bit stale. With the new kind of generation of Star Wars compared to the 2000s, where they were almost pumping out a Star Wars game every week. And I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. Yeah. But I think Fallen Order was just, it just was like, nah, this is it, man. This is it. Playing through that game for Matty Boy. Like, do you remember that time where we had Mandalorian Season 1, The Rise of Skywalker, Fallen Order, all at the same time? It all came out.
They announced that they all came out within a month of each other.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, it was huge. They called it Triple Force Friday, I think, to celebrate that, didn't they?
Yeah, the merch and that,
the merch for it anyway. But
I was surprised.
Go on.
I was surprised when they announced Fallen Order 2. They announced it like not with a bang but a whimper. Like, I think it was like, oh, we're making 3 games, and one of them's Fallen Order 2. And I thought, shouldn't it be celebrated at a bigger level? Now, I'm not, you guys. Look, I'm 59. expecting me to
59 years
understand the
young.
video game space would be like expecting Alec Guinness, to
understand Star Wars
in 1976. And Alec is like, George is like, like in Buck Rogers, when so Flash Gordon, they hand a thing, and Guinness was like, darling, don't worry about that. Don't
George, what are these sticks, George?
Yeah, I'll just do what I do, and you do what you do, and it'll all be fine.
Who's this Harrison chap?
This Harrison chap, he talks a lot.
That's it.
Rightfully brash.
But in the video games, like, I've watched people play Fallen Order because I don't know how to play a video game, but you're
in it. It's okay.
I'm in it, so it's okay. That's good to hear. But I look at it as like more of a movie experience than a video experience. But like, didn't they do a good job, from what everybody tells me, with making the gameplay like legit cool?
Yes,
and giving the player an opportunity to really dig into a good game.
Oh, it was brilliant. From the moment you'd start playing it, it was brilliant, and people just gravitate to it. It does have, I think, just kind of an iconic role in Star Wars, in the mythology, because Star Wars is one of those things that people read. They read the comics, they read the books, they watch the films, they watch the TV shows, the cartoon shows, the games, and it's a unique franchise because that is all canon. It all counts. It's not like, oh, that's what happens in the comics, that's what happens in the films. No, it's all one story. It's all real. Now, you said a word that's really interesting, Daniel, a second ago about celebrating. Yeah?
Yeah.
I've got a question for you, because there are rumors going around. In fact, one of these rumors dropped online only a few hours ago that there may be a Jedi Fallen Order 2. That's kind of what we're calling it at the moment. It'll probably have a different title, but Jedi Fallen Order 2, there's going to be
2 months ago. Go ahead.
People are saying there's going to be a trailer for it, maybe, at Star Wars Celebration, the Star Wars convention over in Los Angeles in late May. Do you know anything about that?
Well, let's just say that would surprise me. It's interesting. We live in this NDA world with everything, I know they announced Jedi Fallen Order. If there's a trailer, I hope I'm in it.
So do I.
Yeah, so does my accountant. When they killed me in Lost, people said, was everyone upset? I said, no one was more upset than my accountant.
Yeah, I hear that. They've got your performance capture down. I mean, they can, whether or not, I don't know the ins and outs of whether they'd need everyone to come back to do that. So, I'm guessing it would just be voice acting they'd need. I say I mean that in the best sense, of course, but I'm assuming they'd need you in the booth to record new lines.
If they did Jedi Fallen Order 2, and Greez was in it, the only way to really do it is to performance capture.
So you can get the emotion from the performance.
Yeah, that would be the only way to really, that's how you do it.
What do you think? I mean, from to me, your Greez. What do you think his story is next? Because at the end of the game, they do what they need to do, and Greez stays on. He's like, "Come on, I'll take you where you need to go." What do you think Greez does next?
Honestly, it's a great question, but one that we have to remember our place. So I'm only the actor, right? I write, produce, and direct my own things, but when I'm hired to be in the other thing, I serve them. So where would I love to see Greez be? I'd love to see a couple of these, and then it's like the Greez spinoff. Boba Fett can have a show. He flew around in a iron. If he can have a show, Greez can have his own show. I think Greez should end up with a talk show. Wouldn't that be great?
Yes.
A Greez talk show where he interviewed live action people, but he was like All right, hold on. I got to flip a steak while we're talking. So I don't know where it would go. I mean, Greez isn't a Jedi, but he is, he is part of the family.
He is now, yeah.
So I don't know. It's, you do these things, being actors, we're nomads, and this is so much better than being a voiceover actor because you never ever meet the other people when you're doing a voiceover character. Rarely. Well, not never ever, but let's say rarely. But, we spent a long time doing Jedi Fallen Order. We really got to know each other. And can I talk about Cameron a little? May I?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
So you mentioned, Luke, a word, canon.
Yes.
I don't know that there's a guy smarter that I've worked with when it comes to canonical, understanding of where we are, what we're doing. He was always on top of that because he was a video game player, A, number one, and B, number two, he's an extraordinarily good actor.
Yes, he is.
Now, and there are Lucas folks there constantly. There's not. You don't work without a Lucas representative
over your shoulder.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But they're there to. I love that they're there because I love this like you guys. So they don't want someone spinning something in there that doesn't belong in there.
Sure.
Reassurance, yeah.
Yeah. And on the movies, I thought there was a little weird spinning in Solo that was there was a little wokeness in Solo to me that I thought, does this really need to be in Star Wars? Because isn't it a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away? Let's assume that they figured out some of these issues before we did. I'm glad that they're there because, I don't think this is wrong to say. I know it's not wrong to say because it really did. This does happen, but you ad lib while you're working. You'd think that there's a biblical, this is a Bible. No, you're still creating a product and you're the actor creating the product. So you might have a better way of saying something in the character that you don't, I'm not just writing it, I'm living it, I'm moving in it, and I'm talking in it. And sometimes, I've got to adjust my footsteps because I'm 4 foot tall and they're 6 foot tall. And I might need a little more time to cover a space. So I might need another 2 or 3 words. So instead of saying, can I say 2 or 3 words? You add 2 or 3 words as you're walking. And you hope that they say, yeah, that's good. I can't remember if Greasy Money, I think, was written, but I know there's 1 or 2 other ad libs in the thing that I kind of came up with. And I was very pleased. I remember driving home and calling my friends and saying, I just ad libbed in Star Wars. But you got to imagine when they were making Star Wars, they were ad libbing in Star Wars. You know what I mean?
Sure, back in the day, yeah.
Yeah. Something happened and George Lucas said, oh, yeah, say that. That's what you do if you're a good director. You listen to your actors and you go, say that, say that.
Yeah. Greasy Money Baby has become a quote, hasn't it, Luke?
Yes. I want it on a t-shirt, to be honest.
Well, God, it's so funny you say that. Tammy.
Oh, yeah.
Tammy.
Here we go.
Where'd you go? Dude. So I have a Greasy Money t-shirt. And she said, do you want to wear that? I said, no, they don't film it. It's only my voice.
Hey, I can take a screenshot.
Deborah Wilson got it for me.
Seer Jinder got you a shirt that said Greasy Money Baby.
Oh, my word. Oh,
I
my
think it
word.
says Greasy Money. Greasy Money.
And
you know what?
There it is.
By the way, here's a note that your listeners, let's see if your listeners are paying attention. In that scene we were talking about where I'm talking to Cal, I actually say Greasy Money. But the interpreter typed Easy Money. But when you really listened to it, what I really said was Greasy Money because it's a callback to the other thing.
No, I'm trying to remember if I can recall it. I'm sure I do recall him saying that, but then I've played the game 3 or 4 times already, so I could remember most of it.
Was it that time or that time?
Yeah.
But again, talking about Cameron, man, he always knew where we were in the game. I work a little differently. I learn my lines. I come to the set. I know where to stand. I don't bump into the furniture. The old joke. They don't really have furniture because there's a couch there and you're looking at an Apple box. But, what a process.
Well, it's one of those, isn't it, that Star Wars does have a funny timeline. And I think that kind of can seem pretty daunting to a lot of people, especially with these TV shows coming out. The Mandalorian, people are like, what? So when's this set? And I know that people that love the show, they adore it. It's one of their favorite shows on TV, and they're still not 100% sure when it's set, but the show is written in a way that you don't necessarily need to know that. The diehards know, but you don't necessarily need to know that. And talking of live action Star Wars, we've been seeing a load of integration of the wider canon into live action Star Wars. So recently we saw Kasantan the Wookiee appear in the Book of Boba Fett, and now we're seeing the Inquisitors turning up in Kenobi. So they're going to be there in live action. Do you think our boy, the legend, the myth, Greezy Money Baby, is he gonna show up in Star Wars at any time?
Please let me do that. It's like I never ask for anything. You look up. I never ask for anything, and God thinks you ask for 30 things every hour.
But this,
other than those 30 things every hour, I would just be Greez Dritus. But how would they do it? I was watching Fantastic Beasts last night, and Ron Perlman's in it, and it's obvious that it's Ron Perlman because the character looks like him. But I wonder if he was sitting there doing Ron Perlman, and they had him in the suit, and then they just took him out and put the little elf guy in there. I don't know. But how would they put me in? I want to be in it. I want Greez to be in it. Sure. Let's do it.
They can do all sorts.
They can do
all sorts.
Yeah.
The mocap, the lot, or even if they got like a puppet in and you were just doing the voice acting or something, they could do it.
Nah, you can't have a puppet do me. Just the same way, I hate to tell you guys, you couldn't have CGI do the puppet. Come on. Yoda, you don't understand. Yoda was real when we were kids. You were like, that's real.
You could reach out and almost touch him.
And then when he was all like dancing around with his lightsaber, going out.
Listen, we know what you mean. We know what you mean. We are the prequel generation, but we know what you mean. I mean, you watch The Empire Strikes Back now, you watch that Yoda scene with Luke, and I think a lot of it, you got to give credit where credit's due to Irving Kershner.
Right? And Frank Oz for the performance.
Of course.
Absolutely.
And Mark Hamill. Yep.
And Mark Hamill as well. It looks real, man. It looks real. And I always say this to people. You watch even stuff from the prequels, all sorts of modern effects, and it's so over the top CGI that you're like, you instantly realize, no, this is so OTT. It's not real. Yoda, there are moments, that film is from 1980. It was filmed before then, and it looks better. It looks better and timeless compared to stuff we see today. And man, I don't know if you can tell, Daniel, we're big Star Wars fans. We love it.
I want to tell you about a guy named Joe Viscoso. Nerds. Do you know who Joe Viscoso is?
The name rings a bell.
No,
Joe
I don't.
Viscoso blew up the Death Star. He was the pyro guy who blew up the Death Star in New Hope, or as we like to call it, Star Wars.
The OG.
So Joe Viscoso has been working in show business for a very long time. He's a very smart guy. And I would meet these guys through a fellow named Bob Burns, was a great connector of people. That's how I met Dennis Murin. That's how I may have met Dave Allen through him. I think Dave Allen and Joe Viscoso. And who was in this moment, the guy who animated the Tauntauns and the chessboard. Why can't I think of his name?
We
all know it. I see his face.
Yeah. I actually heard the name, genuinely heard it the other day, and I thought, I recognise it. I know Roger Christian did this set, but I can't remember.
All right, so let's say look, you'll put this up. Someone's going to write in. We're going to feel like idiots, but
yeah.
But he works on all the new Star Wars. He's still the effects supervisor. Anyway.
Phil Tippett.
Phil Tippett. Yeah,
that's it.
That's right. Thank you. So we get, I got to meet and know these guys. Anyway, Viscoso said something very important, which is, and I give him complete credit because he blew up the Death Star. So he knows something about making something fake look real. So Viscoso, when we were talking about CGI, he said, Dan, I think he said there's like an Asian or maybe a Taoist or some theory that things, tangible things have a potential of soul. He said, when you look at a guy in a Godzilla suit, maybe as humans, we see the soul. But that's why the guy with the hand in the puppet seems real. But the other thing is not real because you see through it. You see, you know that it's not. You know that really it's a shadow. It's nothing. So Viscoso really thought that that's one of the reasons that you said OTT, over the top. Interesting. I hadn't heard of that. But one of the reasons things don't, because they're just too much like unreal.
Yeah. I think it's too much.
When they put a camera someplace, as a filmmaker, my argument would be only put the camera where a camera could physically be put. Because go back to like Pearl Harbor, where the bombs essentially had a camera on them that could see what they were, which didn't really exist, and you couldn't really put a camera there. So once you're like hanging cameras in space, and I don't mean Star Wars space, I mean in a volume that's a legitimate space where you wouldn't hang a camera, just doesn't seem real anymore. So Yoda seemed to us 100% real. Let me tell you something. One last thing, and I hope I'm not boring you. I've done, as an actor, there was a month where I did a show called CSI, where I turned out to be the guy who killed the person.
You were the guest star.
And then so I did CSI, and then 3 weeks later I did CSI New York, where I played the father figure of a young man who was killed. I had to be devastated by that. So I had to play the killer you didn't know was a killer, but I was a killer. Then I had to play the devastated father. And right in the middle I did a show called Crash and Bernstein, where on the Disney Channel I did legit scenes with a Muppet puppet, right? And the Muppet puppet, like Yoda, by the time you really commit to it, you're doing scenes with the puppet. You don't know. You're not even looking below you to know there's two, sometimes three people moving the puppet. You're like looking at the puppet. You're like, you can't have this. This is mine. And so this crazy thing happens where you start believing the puppet's talking.
That's the magic of it, though, surely. That's the magic of it. If you can't believe what you're acting against, then you're on a hiding already. I'm watching you. It's funny because I'm watching you. I'm thinking, I'm feeling the Greez energy coming through.
Me too, man.
You've mentioned, obviously, the inspiration and what you brought to the character, but for now, Fallen Order's done, it's out. The character lives, and Greez has got a lot of fans, me included. How proud are you of what you've done, what you've brought to the story, and of your own piece of Star Wars now? You are a Star Wars.
Yeah,
how proud are you?
I'm very proud of it. I'm, you don't want to take yourself too seriously. I try not to. But I think there is some really, this is what I'm talking about. Like, you're talking to me, so I could say, God is good. For me, I try to live a life that earns those kinds of gifts I try, I'm a failed person, just like all of us are a little failed comparative, but I try to earn these things. So it's not lost on me, and I don't take it lightly. And I do have one friend when the show came out, the game came out, who kind of an actor friend who insinuated that people were talking about it too much. And, kind of like he took a shot at me, like, okay, it's Star Wars. Not everybody loves Star Wars. And I remember 4 other people at the table saying, everybody loves Star Wars. You're wrong.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah. He was just,
get out of it.
And then, by the way, if he was Greez Dritus, we would never hear
biggest film in US box office history, Star Wars Force Awakens. Biggest film in UK box office. Yeah, Star Wars Force Awakens. Australia. Oh, basically anywhere you speak English, Star Wars is a big deal. Come on, shut up.
And even where they don't speak English, they're like, shut up to these Star Wars.
Yeah.
Darth Vader. Exactly.
Hey,
Yeah.
by the way, one of the weird things is like how they dub, we're dubbed, right? But when they overdub Greez, like it's kind of a bummer because they couldn't do it without my body, but it's like, that's not my voice at all.
That's not the real Greasy Money Baby.
We have a few friends and a few listeners of the show who are based in all around the world, and we love and adore our global community. And I think they bring a lot of interesting perspectives, I think, to the table.
Oh, 100%. Some of them come from countries where they didn't let them play Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. And I think it's one of our listeners in Germany. He goes and sees the film like the first time in English because that's the way it was made. That's the way it was intended. And he wants to get the emotion in first. And then he goes and sees it the second time in German just to pick up on the extra details and stuff. And that's so interesting, isn't it? And we're so spoiled, aren't we? We are so privileged that so much comes out in English, and that's not always a good thing because I feel like embarrassed when I don't speak a second language. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I try my hardest, but
I don't think we have to apologize. Look, everybody in the world did the best they could, and the English language became the language that connected people. For whatever reason, it could have been the French language. It wasn't because of, you might be argued that it was English colonialism or American expansionism, but English is just a language that helps the world connect. That's not a bad thing. It's some words don't translate well into other things. So watching a German created show might be hard to watch. It's funny to me. When they dub me, because I actually have, I do not have a low voice, even though I'm a big guy. I have a higher voice. But when they dub me, if I watch the Fugitive in Spanish, the guy's like, he's like, like whatever language they dub me, French, or the guy always talks like this.
Really deep voice.
But in reality, I have a high voice. But they look at my body and they go, "Well, we'll get that guy."
They say that about Japanese, don't they, as well? Like, especially with like a lot of animes, they say watch like the subtitled versions because you get a lot of emotion through the original Japanese voice acting. And when it's dubbed, you lose a bit of the nuance, you lose a bit of the magic. And I even did, last year we had Star Wars Visions, which was Japanese, Star Wars stories. And, I watched them in the Japanese. I watched the subtitles version, first. And man, there is a massive difference. And I do think the way it was originally created, there's something magical about it.
Well, and
there's something magical about it.
And I think that because being an artistic person, gentlemen, I think that, there's a different guy directing the German actor and a different guy directing the Russian actor and a different guy. And I feel like they don't have Tom Keegan's overall sense of like why we chose the takes we chose and why we did it the way we did it. And they might think I can do better and they might direct their actors. And I don't know. It'd be interesting for me to listen to think, did that guy inflect where I inflected? Did he capture did he capture what I captured? You know, look, I mean, these are, what do you call these? Are rich people's problems, you know? Like, I get to be a Star Wars character and someone else gets to do it. By the way, as you're saying that I look like Greez, it's not you. I'm gonna at some point have to call Tammy in here because Luke, you look so much like my son Buster.
Oh really?
Oh yeah.
I thought you look like Kestis.
You're like English Buster. I mean, look at your forehead and my forehead. Look at the shape of the face.
We're getting revelations on this week's show, guys.
Yeah. Luke,
there we go.
What's your mother's name? No, that's a joke.
Yeah.
It's a joke. I'm looking for a picture of Buster. And you
I've always thought Luke looked like Cal Kestis, an English Cal Kestis, but now we've been given a new revelation. Well, whilst you're doing that, I'll say something in English and I'll say something real. Jedi Fallen Order sequel, Greez Dritus versus Darth Vader. I want to see it.
I like that. I could run around his legs and kick him in the shins
with your steak flipper and your salt.
Right. I'm trying to find. I'm looking at you, and I'm looking at him.
I want you as well. After we've recorded this, you got to show me this.
Oh, wow,
I see it.
Okay, I see it.
I see it. I know what you mean. It looks like we could be.
Oh wow,
brother.
It looks like we could be related for sure. You got any British family?
I don't.
British family.
This one. Look at this.
That's actually a little bit funny,
you can't
man.
see, I'm looking at an American spitting image of Luke Bly, and
you
this
need
is
to send us. Daniel, you need to send us this, mate.
I will.
You need to send us this, and we'll ask, and we'll show our followers. We'll put it on social media.
Luke, how old are you?
I'm 27.
Gosh, and he's 24, almost 25. That's funny. Anyway, listeners, I apologize. It was just, a dad's pride. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, this kid, he's doing really good, this kid. I'm like acting like he's my kid.
Thanks.
You're doing good, too. But
Star Wars, Dad. Star Wars, Dad.
Yeah.
That's fun.
So crazy.
Daniel, before you go, we want to know.
Am I leaving? You know something I don't know?
Yeah, that's it. You've brought the family stuff up, and I thought, nah, that's it. Let's long this off. No, favorite Star Wars film.
Oh,
what's yours? Yours?
May I choose two categories? Favorite Star Wars.
Go for it.
Famous first Star Wars film, Empire Strikes Back. Favorite recent Star Wars film, Rogue One.
Oh, yes. This guy gets it. Greez gets it.
Let me tell you why Rogue One is perfect. Because Rogue One, just like when you go to Star Wars land, Rogue One had to fit into the context geographically and architecturally of the first movies. And especially the first movie, right? Because aren't they blowing up the planet and whatever the first?
It's literally set about an hour before the events of Star Wars / A New Hope. Yeah.
So
by the time it ends,
by the time it ends, I think it's a great movie. I thought it was great, beautifully acted. But can we talk about? May I speak on your podcast about one thing that bugs me about new Star Wars?
Yes.
The old Star Wars. They were afraid David Prowse would fall down the stairs because he couldn't see anything through the mask. So they put handrails and banisters on the stairs where there would be handrails and banisters. So those actors would have a sense of the reality of walking around. We get into the new movies, and there's a 1/4-mile walkway in the middle of that's 8,000 feet in the air.
Starkiller base.
Where Han Solo and his son meet up, and there's no guardrail. Now, I want you to think about,
health and safety, Daniel.
If the Empire are supposed to be the Nazis, here's one thing nobody can argue with. The Nazis created more government than anyone else. You think they were ready to have that big conversation, and there wouldn't be a guy who goes, oh, hold on a second. You can't be on this walkway. Yeah, this is illegal. Yeah, you can't have this walkway. It's a 1/4-mile wide. If I was walking with a bucket and you were walking, one of us would fall off. This is very dangerous. Well, you knew Han Solo was going to fall off that thing.
Yeah, they did it. That's why they did it. That's why they did it.
That's right.
No, I'm joking.
I think Rogue One is great because it had to look exactly like Star Wars. So they got away from their new design elements of open, like it. They made it look like the Google campus. You know what I mean? Instead of what it really would have been like, it's a spaceship that you might have to hold on to something. Hold on. Hey, Tammy Roebuck, are you there? Could you come here? Readers, our listeners, I'm just going to have my wife come in and look at Luke. Honey, take your face.
Right.
Now, look,
most people do this.
Hi. Hello. Hi, you're right, Tammy. You good?
Yeah.
We got to send them these pictures.
That's funny.
I keep looking at them. It's crazy. So I'm sorry. We've told like this. Hopefully, this didn't take a big turn for your listeners. Hopefully, they're still in
they're going to enjoy this. Anything where we can relate to Luke looking like someone else, they're gonna enjoy this. But no,
were you named after Star Wars?
Was I what? Sorry.
I don't know if you know it, but there's a character in Star Wars named Luke. Were you named after Luke Skywalker?
No, I've heard of that. No, believe it or not, neither of my parents really liked Star Wars. It was my brother and I. We grew up just with it. My dad was into like cars and fixing stuff and whatnot. My mum, but my mum was the one who was more into fantasy. She loved stories. She loved reading. And I think that's where my brother and I get it from. But no, I am not. Actually, fun fact. Here's a fun fact for my listeners. I'm not even sure if I've shared this. Maybe with Matty Boy before. When I was born, so in the UK, it's probably the same in the US, but you get like a wristband with your name on it. Yeah, okay. I was actually called Alistair Bly, like Al Bly. And my mum, I think it was like a few days into my life, she was like, she basically had a breakdown and was like, he doesn't look like an Alistair. And my dad was like, oh no, right. Okay. What will we name him? And they went, well, we'll name him Luke. And that was it. So my baby wristband actually says Alistair, little baby Al.
Well, your space dad thinks you look like someone else as well.
There we go, mate. So maybe I am.
And here's a weird turnaround on that. Although my son is not named after anyone in Star Wars, he is sort of named after Buster Keaton and Buster Crabbe. And Buster Crabbe played Flash Gordon, which was clearly
the inspiration,
a great influence to George Lucas for Star Wars. So
poetry,
baby.
It all rhymes. Well, Rogue One's actually my favourite Star Wars film. But before we let you go, though, Daniel, you've mentioned you are an actor, but you're also a man of many talents. You're a director as well, producer, writer. Getting Grace is out. I know that is the film that you've directed. I'm in the UK, so unfortunately, I've only been able to see the trailer. And I said to Luke,
our international distributor should have gotten it to you. I'm going to check on that.
Please do, because I said to Luke off air before he came on, I said, I watched the trailer. I almost cried at the trailer. So, but I know that it's getting re-released to theatres. I've seen you promoting just for our listeners then worldwide. So can you just explain Getting Grace and what it means to you and where they can see it?
Yeah, it's a movie about a teenage girl who's dying, who goes into a funeral home to find out what's going to happen after she dies. But she ends up teaching the funeral director how to celebrate life. So it's a life-affirming comedy set in the world of death and dying. What has happened since Getting Grace initially came out is we were hit by a thing called COVID. And so all of a sudden, so many more people have had to deal with the intimate loss of a loved one. And like we took the movie reopened this past weekend, and I went to one of the theaters, to say, does anybody want to do a Q&A? People were gobsmacked. They couldn't talk because the movie is about that process of how do you celebrate every day like it's your first, but how do you let go of someone who does that? And I would invite all of your listeners to go to achannelofpeace.org if they want to know about the other movies we're making. We made one called Lucky Louie that I directed with my daughter and co-wrote with her. And then we're finishing up one now called The Hail Mary, which is about a guy who needed redemption and a nun to Legion to it by condoming it into creating a football team for her all-boys Catholic school.
The Hail Mary.
And then, of course, the Munsters will come out later this year. And if you like the Munsters, I'm Grandpa Munster.
I remember the Munsters when I was a kid. It was black and white back there. Is Rob Zombie's version? Is that going to be black and white or is it full color?
He hasn't said yet, but it is PG. It is PG, so it's going to be a family film.
Like him. Yes, so I'm looking forward to seeing you in that. So getting Grace, the Hail Mary, the Munsters. Daniel has got an awful lot on his plate, but Lukey boy, I want to hear those sweet tones of Greez Dritus, and I want to see him back on the screen on our PlayStation or Xbox again as Greez Dritus.
Absolutely.
You guys are great. Thank you so much. It's a blessing to be here. And to all your listeners, thank you for keeping Star Wars alive.
Thank you so much, Daniel Roebuck. May the Force be with you. No Star Trek signs. No, take that back.